rocket sirens continued sounding across the country throughout the day today. Earlier, Katu's Wright Gazaway spoke with a journalist on the ground for Reuters in Jerusalem about how Israelis are now reacting.
There have been a couple of escalations with Iran since the start of the Gaza war, but this has been bigger than those prior circumstances. What's the mood among civilians on the ground in Israel right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been covering this conflict for 10 years, and that first night, that first barrage, I was in Tel Aviv. I could hear the ground shake, the windows rattle, and I could tell this was different, and Israelis can tell this is different. It's different than past escalations in many ways, and one of the biggest things that makes it different is that it used to be in past escalations that certain parts of the country were shut down, the northern frontier, the southern frontier. Now the entire country is shut down. I did a walk around Jerusalem today. Everything was shut, and that's rare in this country that is used to trying to keep up a routine, even during conflict.
There seems to have been a shift in how Iran is responding with the attacks. At first, sending dozens or even hundreds of missiles at once, now sending fewer missiles but more frequently. How has this impacted daily life in Israel?
So as I mentioned, everything has completely come to a standstill, and it really does reflect a difference. Israelis are very practiced at being ready for emergencies. They know exactly how to get to their nearest shelter. They know how long to stay there before it's safe to come out. And they all have alerts on their phone with this robust infrastructure of shelters and alerts that helps them stay safe in emergency. But this is really of a different scale. And you can really see that Israelis are being very disciplined about staying in that emergency routine. But the routine part of that, of the country, has really been broken down.
Does the Israeli public seem to be in support of the government's operation in Iran, or is there opposition?
So a poll just came out yesterday, and we wrote about this at Reuters.com, that around 70% of Israelis actually do really support this operation. They support a war with Iran. They see it as an existential threat. And one of the things that really stood out to me, and I saw this today when I was speaking to opposition lawmakers who are ordinarily very critical of Benjamin Netanyahu. They criticize the way that he managed the war in Gaza. They also criticize all sorts of political moves that he's made. But it seems to be that there's a rally around the flag effect, even from politicians in the opposition who are calling this a just war. They're saying that it needed to happen, and they're saying that Iran just simply can't be allowed to obtain nuclear capabilities, and so they're giving him his support and not criticizing him just yet.
Flights have been canceled in the area. There are Israelis stuck abroad. There are tourists stuck in Israel. What's being done to help those people?
So I also spoke to Israelis today that were stranded. It was remarkable for me to hear all of these stories about Israelis who are separated, even from their children and their spouses back home. They're trying to get back, and there was a real quagmire in the beginning of the war. Now it looks like Israel has shifted gears. It's working with Israeli aircraft carriers and trying to launch these rescue missions to try to bring those Israelis back. There's a special department that's been opened up to try to figure out who gets priority and gets onto those flights. But it took a bit of time, and there's been a lot of criticism towards the government that they didn't act on that quickly enough.
A lot of people are concerned about this becoming a broader war. The Israeli government has said it could go on for days or even weeks, and they're prepared for that. What are people saying about this becoming an extended campaign?
So that sort of goes back to your first question a little bit, because as I mentioned, this entire country has come to a standstill, and that's very rare for Israel. That doesn't normally happen. And it's a little bit too soon to tell, but there's only so much time that Israel could sustain this economic shutdown, that civilians will be able to just stay at home and not be able to continue in their routine. So that really is something to watch. But I do have to mention that when we put that question to military officials, they said that they were determined to continue pressing on until they were sure that Iran couldn't obtain nuclear capabilities. They weren't going to reveal their bank of targets. They weren't going to give it a time frame, but they were going to say that they were determined to complete that mission.
Emily, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Members of the Iranian community living in other countries are expressing fear for loved ones in Iran. The Associated Press reporting Iranian authorities appear to be limiting access for citizens to the outside world, with phone and internet service disrupted in the country. Video showed long lines of cars and gridlock on a road leading out of Tehran. Reports indicate the capital city of Iran is emptying out, especially after President Trump posted on his Truth Social that everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran.